Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show with your host, Bill Shelton. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
During World War II, everyone made their effort for the military, and the golf course here was no different. I'll let Jack talk a little bit about what happened here during the war with the golf course.
We lived here on a golf course. Me and Wayne here. We lived over one side, and Wayne lived on the other. And during the war, they shut this golf course down, and we put electric wires around the greens. And the first year and a half, we had 500 sheep. We had to stay around with them and keep watch on them, and that was our job for a year and a half. Then the second year, the hotel brought up their cattle, and they stayed on here about a year and a half till after the war. When the war was over, then they come back, and all they had to do is mow the fairways, and it didn't take much to get it back. Got the sand traps and all that stuff going. During the 40s, and my part, we only had one set of fairway mowers. We had to mow both courses, 18 up here and 18 down below. Besides, we mowed the airport and around the hotel with one set of mowers. And we'd pull them up and down these gravel roads, and they would actually just shake them apart. We was working all the time on trying to keep the mowers going because of moving them so far. And we mowed around the clock 7 days a week, and on the greens we had just one mower to mow the greens with at that time. During the war, everything else was wore out and tore up. And we'd spend a day just mowing the greens, getting out, and then first before you do that, you'd take a fishing pole out and you'd whip the greens off and knock the dew and all the things off the greens. And it was real tough then to keep things going. We had push mowers that we mowed all the sand traps with back then, and it was really, really tough and we only had 5 sets of hose, and we had to drag them all around the golf courses every night. You'd water a green for an hour and a half, and then you'd roll it up and you'd carry it to the next green and water that for an hour and a half, and that's a routine you did all during them days. And it was tough out there. It was really tough to keep a golf.
Water wagon, is that what you had?
No. You just carried them. You carried we had spouts at each green, but the hotel would pump them to a reservoir. We had a reservoir here, and then the water from the reservoir would run down to the golf course, and then we'd water each green. But we had to carry our hose with us from green to green to green, and that was tough back then.
I wanted to add a little bit to that because I watered greens down here for a few years at nighttime, and Jack's right. When you went from hole to hole, you carried your hose. But the reason back then there was no vehicles allowed on the golf course. We had Mr. Taggart would probably had a heart attack if he'd have seen anything in 4 wheels on that golf course besides a tractor. And practically everything we done, we walked.
Wild Bluff at Bay Mills, voted best golf course in the UP. Golf and gaming packages available from $89.
But working the golf courses back then, because they had no way, the greens, like your greens and stuff, there wasn't no treatment for them. You went out there and you weeded greens all day. You top dressed them. We'd go in and top dress them. We had our own operation with a little thing that screened the gravel and put our peat moss and sand and everything. And we spent all winter just getting ready for spring, for the top dressing and all those things. And then we had a couple of beds over by the greenhouse or at the hotel that we would take sod off of, and we'd sod in instead of treating it. You didn't have anything to treat it with. You just go get extra sod, and you'd get a bad place, you'd cut it out and put a piece of sod in. And that's the only way you had to and the greens was a lot bigger at that time than they are today. We had big greens back then. Well, you had about 15 to 17 to a golf course. Because he had sizes, they mowed it with horses. Like Wayne said, you wasn't allowed with a vehicle or anything. We had a big barn there by our house, and they kept horses, and the men come every day, and they mowed, and we'd take the hay off the thing and put in the barn, and we'd feed cows with it and stuff in the winter. But the hotel furnished all the department heads a place to live. Back then, the assistant greenskeeper they had a house to live in. And they also, then on top of that, like you had a flood, we was out there the next day as the floods would go down, we'd break up as the water went down, and the day the last piece was on that golf course, it was clean. And then we went to, we'd bought a harner from a farmer, and we'd run that harner over to break up the mud and stuff, so that when it rained, it just washed it away, and you wouldn't have anything there to look at.